Hey everyone, welcome to Do It While You're Young. I'm Brett, and today we're talking with Ashley Small, president of the brand development firm Medley Inc. Medley Incorporated specializes in building brands in the fashion, arts, beauty, nonprofit, and entertainment industries. As president of Medley, Ashley evaluates each client's branding needs and creates custom, highly targeted strategies with measurable results. Here's what you're going to get out of watching today's interview. You'll learn how Ashley identified a need in the market and established her company to meet that need. You'll learn which marketing and brand development skills are necessary to be successful in your business. And you'll learn how to find what you love to do and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who share a similar passion. Let's get started with Ashley. So Ashley, why don't you tell me a little bit about the evolution of how you got to where you are today, your background, how you started Medley Inc., and kind of take us through those last couple of years.
Okay, so I'd always been a person who kind of worn many hats. And so I initially set out, when I went to school, I set out to be a print journalist, but I soon found that journalism can be a little restricted, especially if you're aspiring to write for a newspaper. I'm going back a little further than, I don't know if you want me to go back this far, but I will.
Sure.
When I was in college, this is about 6 years ago, I went to my career counselor professor, and I just asked her, please let me in this PR advanced class. And I hadn't taken any PR classes at all. And so it's pretty audacious of me. But I was like, I'm ready. It sounds like a fun job. It sounds like a fun field, because I understood that PR was always evolving. And I understood that PR was always a challenge, because you're always working toward a goal every single day, like 5 to 10 goals that are tangible. And so I knew that it was a challenge, and I knew that it would always have me kind of shifting and floating around. So I went to her office and I begged her, just, please let me in this PR advanced class. And she was just like, I don't know what we're going to do with you, but we're going to figure it out. And so, because before then I was kind of just getting by through school, just going for whatever reason. And so she let me in the class, and I loved it. And it was an advanced PR campaign class. And so I got to actually work on a campaign. From there, I went to intern in LA at Weber Shandwick. And then I came back to school, and I was excited. And after graduating, I had a few jobs in PR, social media, web marketing. And eventually I got to a point that I kind of could start my own thing, because while working for other people, I was always, doing a social media campaign for a former coworker or a former boss. I was always launching a PR promotion campaign for someone I knew. So I'd always been one of those people who just always had a few different things going on at the same time. Medley came about very organically. What I learned from that is to just kind of let things happen when it comes to entrepreneurship, because they will. It was very unforced. I just had gotten to a point that I was like, hey, I have enough clients that I can probably make this a full-time thing. And so it was very, very organic in terms of how Medley came about.
Sure. And so the projects that you mentioned for friends, colleagues, people that you knew, was that just kind of like on the side to test the waters, or how did those kind of projects come about?
It was to test the waters. I think that most of the time it would be, I'd see an opportunity and I would say, hey, I can help you with this. Or many people had known about, when I was in school, I would do a lot of events on campus, PR campaigns on campus for like the organization that I was involved with. So I'd gained many contacts through that way. And then a lot of it was just me seeing other young women entrepreneurs who were boutique owners or salon owners or just designers who I saw there was an opportunity to help them. And it really was very grassroots. I would go to some of these women and say, hey, I know how to maintain Facebook and Twitter, and that's kind of how Medley started, is me just saying, I understand social media, because I'd interned and worked in web marketing and social media previously. And so me coming to them kind of on the cusp of this 3-4 years ago, saying, I know how to use this in a business setting. Just let me maintain your Facebook and Twitter. And that is literally how we got our first clients. Eventually, I would tell them, well, I also know how to write a press release. And I also know how to get media to come to your event. Oh, and, let's talk about your brand. And so it was a serious evolution of how Medley Inc. came about.
Okay, excellent. So you mentioned that a lot of your smaller projects that eventually grew into business more sustainable business, longer term customers. How did you develop or foster those relationships in order to grow that side of the business?
Well, I can say that anyone who's considering a career in PR, relationships are key.
Hmm.
Lucky for me, I have several years of retail experience. I worked at Pier 1 as a manager, worked at Sephora as an operations manager. And so, I mean, retail experience is some of the best foundation for any type of career. And so I feel like we have a really good grip on nurturing relationships.
Hmm.
My husband, who's my business partner, he's probably more of the laid back, casual. He makes clients feel really comfortable, and I'm probably more serious.
Hmm.
And so I think that there's some clients that I have to bring him in on the meeting because I know that he adds value because he makes them feel comfortable and makes them feel like they're part of our team. And sometimes when it's for me just the how do I get from point A to Z, that's probably my strength in terms of getting straight to the bottom of it. So I think just we have a good balance. I think that we evaluate each client and we know who's going to work best with who,
Hmm.
and we kind of take it from there. But nurturing relationships and maintaining relationships is key in PR. We do things from sending weekly updates to calling, texting, emailing clients. Everyone prefers something different.
Hmm.
Some clients, they only text. And so I've adapted to them. Some only email, some love to call. So we just really adapt to each client and just stay accessible.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And it's I would imagine that you're working one on one with all these customers. Do you have employees, or is it really just you and Ryan who are?
Yes, we have one
Okay.
employee. So it's actually four of us total.
Hmm.
So it's myself and Ryan. I'm the president, and I pretty much oversee everything. My focus is on digital PR, so
Hmm.
PR, social media, web marketing. Ryan is the new media director, and he focuses on primarily video. So he does some social media, but his main thing is video marketing. I have another young lady named Cynthia Murga. She's full time here at Medley, and she does PR and social media as well.
Hmm.
And then I have a business development partner who does accounting and all the stuff that I have no desire to do.
Sure. Yeah, always good to outsource the things that you're less desirable, and keep things in house that you really enjoy doing. Right, that are your strengths.
Oh, certainly. I
Yeah.
learned that quickly. And even with your employees, knowing what everyone's strengths are, because
Hmm.
when people love what they do, they'll be more effective, they'll be more efficient, and they'll show up happy at work every day. So I have learned to figure out my own strengths as well as my employees.
Sure. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you this a little earlier, is when you first decided that PR might be something that you would be interested in, and you approached that professor of the class in college, like what was it that really kind of caught your imagination and inspired you to go out there and pursue that class, taking that class?
It was the idea that I would have creative freedom
Hmm.
and that I would be able to still work in all areas of media. Because I went to school for print journalism, but while in school, I'd taken telecommunications, video, radio classes.
Hmm.
I'd always done a little bit of everything in media, and I loved that. Since graduating, I've had a job at a newspaper, a magazine. And so the good thing about PR is that you still kind of are in those circles and in those conversations all the time. And when you work in PR, so that was the main thing because I loved communications and I loved media. I just didn't know how to do it all every day. And
Hmm.
PR seemed to be able to give you that ability to do that.
Sure. So PR, would you agree with the statement that PR is more of a generalist role, whereas journalist, it's much more specialized in that?
Oh,
Yeah.
certainly. Many former journalists and former producers go into PR. I think that's
Hmm.
a great strategy because you learn, if you work in a TV station, then you know exactly what those producers are looking
Hmm.
for. So it makes PR kind of effortless, and as well as if you worked at a newspaper. So many media professionals, you're starting to see them switch careers into PR. So yes, PR is very different. I think that it's very broad in terms of what you can do in a day-to-day basis.
Okay. And take me through, so those first few months of Medley Inc. Take me through the process of when you finally decided that you were going to launch your own business. What were you doing immediately before? What did those first few months of Medley Inc. look like, and how has that grown into what you guys are doing today?
Okay. Okay. So let's see. What was I doing before? So it was just like a slow build.
Hmm.
I think I was working for Houston Mayor Bill White. He's
Mm,
running
sure.
for governor. I was working on his gubernatorial campaign, working on the social media and communication team. But I was still, again, doing these jobs for like boutiques and designers, just doing them for fun at the time.
Hmm.
From there, so that's kind of when there was a slow build. That was like in 2009. And I started like launching our website and taking some baby steps. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
And um, and then I went to go work for a magazine, and I worked at the magazine on and off for a few years. But that's when I really started leveraging my contacts. The good thing is my boss at the magazine supported and promoted Medley and
Hmm.
supported our career. So she was comfortable with the fact that I was building my own thing, but at the same time contributing to her magazine.
Hmm.
And then really my husband was really the one kind of who was just like, you can do it, go work for yourself. And one day he was just like, you need to do this full
Yeah.
time. And he's seen how difficult it was for me to juggle everything. It was a real challenge, having to do a day job for the magazine, which was probably 50 plus hours a week at the
Hmm.
magazine,
Yeah.
and then having to do medley, which was a minimum of like 40 hours. I don't even know if there's that many hours in the week, but that's what it felt like because there are
Yeah.
many late nights and early mornings. And so he'd just seen all the sacrifices I was making, and he'd seen how challenging it was, and he'd seen that it finally made sense that I could transition. And so he really pushed me, and he just said, "Do this full time." So after I started full time, it was just a matter of kind of getting some things in order, like really establishing our rates, really looking at our contracts, really looking at our overall company, because we started off as Medley PR,
Hmm.
but then at that point we started realizing we could not be successful in PR if clients didn't have the basics of branding established. So we started looking at, websites and logos and key messages, and kind of really looking at that, because we found that if we can't see something that's marketable online in person, then the media probably wouldn't either.
Hmm.
So that's why we kind of took it back and we started saying, well, let's start at the branding, and then let's move into PR, and then let's move into social media, or do the branding and social media together. So that's kind of how it came about to be a brand development company.
Okay. So it's really taking a look, taking a step back, and figuring out what your customers need. They came to you wanting PR, but you really took a hard look at where they were at and what areas they were short in, and then you developed different parts of your business to reflect that. Is that a fair statement?
It's a fair statement,
Okay.
certainly, and we even do that today. I think that I feel like PR is a luxury service. I really
Hmm.
do. I think that when you're in your first or second year of business, PR, in my opinion, should not be your top priority
Hmm.
as an investment. It's I think there are some very basic grassroots things that can be done to garner attention, especially with social media and especially with in-person networking. Those are the type of marketing efforts that I suggest for small businesses. And so there are times that even now we have to really look at potential clients and where they're at as a business, and determine if PR is needed right now. So yes, so we do assess clients' needs on a very broad scale.
Sure.
Sometimes we need to bring in a business development partner. Sometimes a client may need a manager, and they thought they needed a publicist, but they need someone to help them with their booking. So it varies.
Sure. And you're there kind of, I mean, when you sit down for an initial consult with customers, you're there as kind of a filter, or you evaluate, is this the right point in time for them to hire your services? And do you ever turn away customers that come to you, say, we need this, and you say, no, I don't think, come back in 6 months, or come back in 12 months, once you've been established, like you said, that early couple years, probably not really needing PR services, but at some point, come back to us and we'll help you.
Yes, I
Okay.
do that. I do that. In most cases, I'll end up training them. And so we do offer social media trainings, and we do offer a la carte, like logo, branding, some of those things. So in most cases, more than turning them away, I'm usually able to provide some very grassroots level of services. So oftentimes I'll say, I don't think you should invest in PR right now, but I'd be happy to teach you how to use social media to garner the attention of the media on your own in the meantime. And so that's what I do a lot of the time in the interim. And then I'll say, but let's talk about this PR retainer in about 6 months. Okay. And sometimes I'll just say, you know what, let's just go ahead and start redeveloping your brand. Start with your logo, maybe your website, your social media channel. So in more cases than not, we're able to do some very grassroots a la carte services for the client who may not be quite ready for a full-on PR campaign.
Sure. No, that's a great picture into how you approach business strategy. Thanks for that.
No problem. The only thing that we probably have learned to stay away from are the really intense areas. Like we've tried to work in education, we've tried to do medical, but some careers are still so restricted in terms of their social media that it's just not good in terms of there's a lot of potential legal risks. So we stay away from medical is a big one because I'm not a doctor. I really don't know how to communicate on behalf of a doctor articulately. And so that would be my piece of advice to anyone pursuing a career in PR or social media is that if you're going to be niche focused, be niche focused. If you're not, then what am I trying to say? Know your limitations.
Sure.
So we focus on almost every industry, but there may be 2 or 3 that we don't. And it's really education in terms of working with a school and medical, because there could be some serious legal issues around that.
Sure. Now, it's interesting that the topic of niche has come up because we harp on it a lot on our site, especially with the starting a travel blog ebook, and also a couple of interviews where we've touched on the importance of niching down and really knowing your niche and being the expert there, because that's really the only way to differentiate, is to be an expert in your particular field. No matter how small, you can always grow bigger, but it helps to start small and really execute in that area.
Certainly. I agree. Yeah. We started off focusing on fashion and beauty, mainly because those are the backgrounds that we had as a team. But we quickly found that Houston is not the most viable market for fashion and beauty. It's not seen on a global perspective as a fashion and beauty type of city. And so we've expanded, and now we tend to attract arts, nonprofit, fashion, entertainment, beauty. Those are the audiences that we tend to attract the most. But I love that we're working more in arts, and I love that we're working more in nonprofits. Most of the nonprofits we work with are arts related. And so I'm glad that we've kind of expanded our niche. But we still know what we're passionate about, and we still know what we're good at.
Sure. I want to ask you, you mentioned the manager that you had at the magazine. You mentioned getting support from your husband. Talk a little bit about advisors, mentors in your life, and what they have helped you through, what they've taught you, what you've taken from your relationship with them.
That's hugely important as an entrepreneur. I think having a core group of mentors, friends. I meet with a group of young ladies. We call ourselves the Houston Global Masterminds, I think. Houston Masterminds. Yeah. And so we meet we're supposed to meet monthly. We usually meet about bi-monthly, but we're all young female entrepreneurs. We meet once a month, and it's really an accountability system. So we talk about what we accomplished, our highlights. We talk about our goals for the next month, and then we talk about how we can help each other meet those goals. And this group has been so helpful. I can't even clearly articulate it, but I used to have a board, and I loved my board, but I quickly found that they were like Ashley cheerleaders. Sure. And so, I would show up to my board meetings not prepared, and I wouldn't have my numbers. And I quickly found that you can't have people around you who are always going to tell you that you rock and you're doing excellent things, and who've seen your growth. It's good to have a set of fresh pair of eyes who saw you last month, and they see that, see you this month, and they're going to be able to really hold you accountable and call you out. So that's what this group does. And then I do have mentors. My family's extra supportive. My dad, I don't think he quite knows what I do, but he supports it.
Sure. And he can be your cheerleader, right? You have your mastermind for accountability and to kind of pick you apart, but you've got your close family and friends there to be that support network.
Oh, certainly,
Yeah.
certainly. And with our mastermind group, we plan to eventually start teaching other people how to form these groups and kind of just tell them, give them our model because it really is. It's a good model, like finding what works for you, and it's very casual. So yes, it's good to have those people who are going to let you cry and get sad when you need to get sad,
Hmm.
like family. But then some people who are really going to treat you like a big girl sometimes.
Sure. No, I love that advice. The constructive criticism and mastermind, being a member of a local mastermind here, I think is just a huge contributor to people's success because you do need to have accountability. You do need people checking up on you and making sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do from the last meeting, right?
Certainly,
Yeah,
yep. You have to be held accountable.
absolutely.
And I think I want to make one more point. I'm sorry.
Sure. No.
I think as an entrepreneur, it's even more important because when you're in a job environment where there's 40x employees
Hmm.
and six managers, you always have someone holding you accountable, multiple people, or if nothing else, you're being challenged because you have to compete with 40 different people.
Yeah.
And so I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you forget that it is a competitive market and someone is looking at you and expecting you to perform, which in most cases is your clients. And
Hmm.
so I do think that having those accountability partners is really important. Otherwise, no one is setting the standards for you except for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously,
That
you
is a
make
great
something
observation.
awesome and then you're like,
Yeah.
what?
No, definitely. And especially for new business, small business owners who are just getting started and maybe just have one or two customers, or maybe don't have any customers. Who is the person there that's holding their feet to the fire, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I love that. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've experienced starting the business, growing the business, any challenges that you've had working with certain customers. Give us an idea of what the day-to-day is there.
Okay, I have my notes here, that's why I keep looking over
Sure.
here. I want to make sure. Oh, I would say that my biggest challenge is that I'm pretty hard on myself. I think that's an
Hmm.
ongoing challenge, and so oftentimes I tend to stifle myself just because I feel like I feel like I want to be like Oprah tomorrow, or I want to be like Weber Shandwick, the company that I interned with 4 years ago
Hmm.
tomorrow. And so that's probably my biggest overall challenge as a business owner is that I'm really, really hard on myself.
Sure.
Otherwise, the day-to-day challenges is for us as a company is coming up with systems in place that work for our organization. And so we've tried several different project management software.
Hmm.
We've tried new calendars. I've tried different apps. I've tried everything to help us stay on task and stay organized. I would say that as a new business owner, that can be a challenge because again, when you come to an organization, a large organization that has all these resources, they've been doing the same thing for 50 plus years
Hmm.
in terms of they have a model that works and a model of communicating. They have all sorts of contracts and files and marketing documents that they've had for years that they're just kind of
Yeah.
updating. And so just establishing those core basics of business probably has been our challenge. I've recently hired my business development partner, Anna, and she's been a rock star in that area.
Hmm.
But we're 3 years in business, so that's not too bad. I would say this year has been our best year so far in terms of really staying on task. But
Sure.
that would be the main thing is figuring out how to be efficient and effective. And not so much just focused on results because results is great, but you still have to measure, you still have to send
Hmm.
reports, you still have to track. And so for the first 2 years of business, it was very much focused on results. But now we want to eventually present to investors. We want to apply for grants. And so thinking of that type of stuff, you really have to have some solid data recorded. That's probably my biggest challenge.
Sure.
My customers are awesome, or my clients are awesome, so we don't have a lot of challenge in those areas, gratefully.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
The good thing about being an entrepreneur is that you really can choose who you want to work with.
Hmm.
I tend to not have to decline business, but I think I tend to attract the type of business people that work for us, and that is a good thing.
That is a good thing. Yeah. And so backing up to the processes, the systems that you've tried and that have actually stuck, could you give actual examples of maybe a system or a software application or something that you're using and maybe frame it in terms of you're using it today and you're thinking, God, if we had this 2 years ago, we would have been, light years beyond where we are now. what have you learned as far as the business and systems that you are using today?
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We recently started using do.com.
Okay.
It's kind of like Basecamp.
Yep.
So it's project management software. Do.com is free.
Wow.
And so it's not as comprehensive and advanced as Basecamp.
Mhm.
But for me, I don't necessarily need a project management software that I can let our clients sign in and we can communicate. I need something that's simple that my team can log in and we can manage our day-to-day tasks.
Mhm.
And so do let you do that. When you want different clients to log in, I highly recommend something like Basecamp.
Okay.
But for just day-to-day tasks like employee management, do.com works well for me. It integrates with Google products, and I love Google products,
Mhm.
and so that helps for me, and it's free. Something else I use is FreshBooks. I have QuickBooks. I don't love QuickBooks.
Mhm.
I just don't like
I
it.
haven't talked to anyone actually that does.
Hmm?
I haven't talked to anyone that says they like QuickBooks. It's almost like a step to whatever they're going to end up using, right? But it's really kind of an interim, and people use it just to get them there. Yeah.
Exactly. So QuickBooks, I don't like it, but
Yeah.
FreshBooks is an easier version of that. And so that helps me with my day to day just to see what's going on. It allows you to track your hours. In PR, it's one, I said it's a luxury field, but clients are going to want to see how you're spending the money they've invested in you.
Sure.
And so FreshBooks allows you to track your time. So you can clock in and have the clock start going on a project and clock out. So I send monthly logged hours reports to clients. And it allows you to do invoicing there. And we've also started using media databases, and it's quite a bit of an investment, but they allow you to have access to pretty much any media contact that you desire.
Mhm.
And so that's been hugely beneficial for our business.
Oh, well,
So
great.
those probably three things is do.com, FreshBooks, and we are using Cision right now. It's Cision.
Mhm.
And it's been helpful. There's plenty of media database out there, but those have probably been the smartest moves we made so far in our efforts to get organized.
Yeah, I'll be sure to include those in the interview notes below. And I think especially like do.com is a great example. There are some excellent free tools out there for entrepreneurs and people who want to start travel businesses or even, travel blogging. If you're trying to launch a travel blog, I think tools like that are useful for organizing, when you're going to post and what's your pipeline for article ideas that are coming up.
Certainly,
Yeah.
yeah. It's important to, I mean, that's one thing I have learned is it was great that we were able to kind of just jump in and start doing the work. I'm grateful for that because that's how we've stayed in business because doing the work means getting money. But I also recommend bringing someone in or just kind of buckling down yourself and looking at some of those pieces that you could be doing to stay organized as early as possible. I highly recommend that because, lucky for us, it hasn't become a problem in our business.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see that there was a need for it going into our third year to get a little more efficient and organized.
Sure. Well, yeah, thanks for those suggestions.
No problem.
I want to kind of tie things up and give you an opportunity to just offer general advice, lessons learned. What would you be able to tell our audience? Maybe focus on something like branding, which I know you guys do very well. We touched a little bit about networking, but what could you offer to people who want to start their own travel business or maybe some other travel-related activity or project?
I would recommend doing some research, of course, and figuring out where there's a niche. I love the idea of, starting your own thing and being excited about it, but I also love the idea of meeting the demand. And so, I think that I like that you all are, focusing on how to make revenue while traveling because that's very important. I don't think there's a lot of sites that offer that. I think that, people don't have access to that type of information readily available. And so I think really before you even just dive into it, really understand your niche because it's great to be passionate about it. And I think that every career, Medley, so I'm going back a little bit.
Sure.
So Medley is where I want to be right now, but I know where I want to ultimately be. I'll get there. But in the meantime, I do the grunt work still. So in other words, understand that having a passion is good, but you still have to do the grunt work.
Yep.
And so that'd be my advice. And then just taking baby steps. Again, I wish my story of becoming an entrepreneur, or I wish I had to say that I traveled the world and did X, Y, Z, but it was very organic. So I recommend really, what are your passions? If your passions are travel writing, start a free blog on Blogger or WordPress and do very, very grassroots building until you can fully make that plunge. If you want to eventually start a travel business, maybe just launch a Twitter account, or if you want to do something more like helping people with their booking and their traveling, you can go through another company and become an affiliate on a travel website. And so there are so many grassroots things you can do just to kind of get some experience and really decide if that's the direction you want to go in. So I guess in a nutshell, my advice would be to do your research, find your niche, and to take baby steps, because it will happen. When it happens organically, it's so much less stressful.
Sure. And fulfilling, right? I mean, you're probably looking back on when you guys started Medley, and you look at how far you've come, and you just think to yourself, wow, this has been an incredible ride, and I'm sure great things are to come.
Oh yeah, it has been, and I look up every day and I'm like, I can't believe I do this for work, because it doesn't feel like it, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't feel like work. It should be like, this is what I really do for a living.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're going for in this Work and Travel series. So I want to say thank you for joining us. How is the easiest way to get a hold of you, Ashley?
Probably on social media, really.
Okay.
Twitter, I'm pretty quick to responding on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter at Ashley R Small, the letter R Small.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook at Ashley Small, and email is always good too. I am an email at ashley@medley-inc.com. So those are probably the best way. To learn more about me and my company, you can visit www.medley-inc.com.
All right. Well, terrific. I'll be sure to include all those in the show notes. And best of luck to you in the future, Ashley. Keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Before you go, please take 30 seconds to share this video with family and friends. It's as easy as clicking one of the share buttons below. Finally, are you interested in seeing us interview an entrepreneur, travel professional, or someone else you think would make for a great interview? Leave a comment below and suggest an interview, or simply leave a comment telling us how we're doing.